So you're trying to find corners on the track that have similar profiles or similar ways of driving. And an example of that would be if we look over here at turn 1 and turn 2, turn 3 and turn 4 and turn 5 to a certain extent, and also turn 9 and turn 10. And the reason why we say that they're similar is because they're what we call combination corners. And what that means is we have a corner immediately followed by another corner. So if we, for example, try and brake too late in the first part, it's going to put us in a bad positioning for the second part, which is going to cause a chain reaction that may mean a slow exit onto the back straight for the example of turn 1 and turn 2, or in the example of turn 3 and turn 4, not being able to take turn 4 completely flat out because you're in the wrong positioning with the kart. So there's some corners where you just have to focus on just driving it the best you can. You know, turn 6, the hairpin, it's just a regular hairpin, brake as late as you can, stop the kart and get on the throttle as early as possible. But in these other corners where you have a corner immediately afterwards, you have to really think about what you're doing and all the little fine details about what you want to achieve in the corner, what you want to be in terms of kart positioning, where you want to make up the lap time and where you particularly want to sacrifice a little bit. And as a general rule of thumb, hopefully you guys have all heard the ruling slow in and fast out, which basically means when you have a nice long straight, you sacrifice a little bit on the entry so that you can get back on the throttle nice and soon and drive the kart out of the exit. And a really great example of that is turn 1 and turn 2. So first things first, can you see that okay? Just wanted to make sure. Yep, spot on. So the first thing is when we arrive into turn 1 and you can actually see the kart ahead is doing it perfectly. You've got that little white line as like a reference point in your head. And in any corner you drive, you want to make sure to use the full width of the track. You know, you've turned up for the day, you've paid for the whole track, and that's what my old karting team boss used to say. If you paid for all of it, you might as well use it. So it's all about opening up the corner as much as you possibly can so that you can carry the maximum amount of speed and not tighten the corner up. And that's a general rule in any corner you drive. That's the first thing you want to do because the entry to the corner is the most important. So that's the first box you want to tick anytime you go through a corner. Am I using all the track available to me? Let's say for argument's sake we've got a really good track positioning, then we can focus on the turn-in point and where we want to be at the apex. Hopefully you all know the basic principle of where an apex is. That's your clipping point, the point mid-corner where you want the car to be. And you can see there, the driver's had a nice committed turn-in point and he's aiming for that inside curb and he's running almost all of it. And the reason he's doing that is because he wants to hold the kart over to the left-hand side to open up for this nice long straight here. You can't actually see it because there's no sensors or anything like that, but he'll have a small lift off and then a brake when this corner could probably be taken flat. But if he took it flat rather than hanging over to the left-hand side and being fully open, he'd be 1 car length or 2 car lengths over to the right, which would then close that corner. So he's already thinking, what do I want? Where am I going to find the maximum lap time? And he knows here it's with your kart positioning and your minimum and exit speed in turn 2. And as we go through to see it, manages to get to the apex really nicely. And actually, hopefully you can see it cleanly. Sometimes the video is a bit shaky, but you can almost see how much lap time he's taken out of the kart ahead just by having good positioning. See, the other kart has just missed the curb a little bit, ends up a fraction wider, can't get back on power as soon, and he's actually taken a couple of tenths out of it. And a couple of tenths here, a couple of tenths there, that's how you end up finding a second, which can be the difference between obviously winning a race and being somewhere, you know, mid-pack or back of the field. So all these small little details really matter. The other thing that's really, really important here, and you can see that he uses all of the track on exit. So just like we do on entry to a corner, we want to use all the track on exit as well, because that means we can open the steering and get back on power and drive the kart out the corner. And again, this is something you can see actually where I've paused it there. He's already opening up the steering and driving out as much as he possibly can. And that's another aspect that will massively, massively help him in just being able to get back on the throttle a fraction sooner, carry a bit more minimum speed, and ultimately carry as much speed as he can through the corner. So that's the first example of a combination corner where we want to focus on the exit. What about a combination corner where it's a bit tighter because the straight that follows isn't particularly long? Well, thankfully at Wilton Mill, we have that as an example, the very next corner. So here, obviously, again, you can see he's using all of the track available to him. However, there's a slight change here. What we're going to be focusing on, rather than focusing on pulling the kart out of the corner, your exit speed, we want to be focusing on pushing the braking point, the point at which you hit the brake pedal, as late as you possibly can, bringing loads of entry speed and keeping the kart over to the right-hand side on the exit here, because the next corner that follows is very tight and even closer with a short straight. So that means that all the lap time can be found on the brakes. And you can see here, he's over to the left-hand side to open up the corner. He's bringing loads of entry speed. And again, this actually works out really well because you can see the difference here compared to the other driver ahead. Look at how much better that positioning is. And just take note of that, how much further over he is to the right-hand side, because what that does is it means that he can carry more speed through the left-hander and then the next right, because the next two corners are completely combined together. You can see he's already all over the back of him, all over the back of him. And then if that was a race, and it wasn't his teammate, he definitely would have gone for an overtake, but he's already set himself up for that. So if we just rewind back to it, just so you can see it again nice and clearly. And this is something that maybe, you know, when you haven't got a great deal of racing experience, it can kind of go a little bit lost. But the difference in that kart positioning is half a kart. That's all we're talking about. And you can actually see his left tires line up with the bumper, his right tires line up with the bumper. It's literally half a kart width. But that half a kart width is the difference between a tenth, 2/10, and also just making your life easier as a driver. If you do these little basic points and what you focus on, it can take away the mystification, for lack of a better word, of why am I losing lap time in this bit? It feels like I'm on the limit. I can't go any quicker. You might just be looking for the lap time in the wrong places. And here's a really great example of that.